Francisco, as I mentioned, I was not aware Metropolitan was so expansive in the areas in South America, covers beyond Ecuador. Please tell me and tell our audience what does Metropolitan do, where, how?
Great, thank you, Charles. The presence of Metropolitan Touring in the region of South America started with the country of Ecuador. That's the birthplace of the brand Metropolitan Touring. And one of the pioneer features that we have as a company is that we put the first organized operation in the Galapagos. Gradually that grew into more vessels. We made a fleet, if you will, of expedition vessels in the Galapagos. And when it was time to grow a little more than that, we thought, where should we grow? Should we grow more in Ecuador, or should we incorporate the rest of South America in our development concept? And the rest of South America was brought in the picture. Not only because there's more interest in South America, but also because people would like to know more about cultural features of South America and natural features of South America. And so for us, the route was pretty obvious. We had to grow in the rest of South America. So the rest of South America means that after Ecuador, we took a step across the border and went south, and went first to Peru. That's where the second stepping stone for Metropolitan Touring.
Which year was that?
This was the year 2001.
Okay.
And from then we gradually incorporated more of Peru. And then we grew into Argentina, Chile, nowadays Colombia is in the picture. And we're happy that in these 5 destinations, which are very different and very keen into what should trigger the mind of a traveler, we decided to make sure that every operation has its own personality, meaning that we didn't want to bring the corporate view of let's put the brand same standards of operation in all destinations. In other words, the Peru office had to be led by Peruvians. The Argentinian office had to be led by Argentinians because they know their culture, they know what is Argentina good for, and they can channel that, they can convey those concepts easily than any other corporate view on that. So we respected that very well, and so the Peruvians do Peru, the Argentinians do Argentina, the Chileans Chile, and of course the Colombians Colombia. And of course we're all great partners, we're all great friends, and we understand that conveying the knowledge of each destination is a wiser way of putting together a natural component in those destinations, a cultural component in those destinations, and definitely professional services that will greet well and of course provide memorable experiences for those traveling to those places.
When a travel company contacts you for a multi-country itinerary or product, do they deal with one office or who will coordinate it, or they deal directly with each office?
The way we have set up when a feature like that comes in, or when a particular request like that comes in, is that we tell people, listen, the one country that will take the most days in that particular request is the country that would lead the rest of the booking, if you will. So, for example, if the Ecuador trip, because it includes Galapagos, Amazon, Mashpi Lodge, and probably 1 or 2 days in Quito, ends up into a 10-day program in Ecuador, and you want to add 5 days in Peru, 3 days in Colombia, or a week probably in Colombia,
Ecuador will lead
that,
and coordinate with the other offices.
Exactly. That's the way it works when it's multi-country.
As I mentioned to you also that I spent 4 days with your chairman of Metropolitan recently, a very fine human being, individual, loves nature, loves the world. What's the culture of Metropolitan, and what is the philosophy behind how Metropolitan is run?
Okay, the views that we have, our vision as a company, is that we want to share with the world the best of what South America can offer. And the best is not necessarily related to a particular brand or a particular feature. It's a combination of how the culture of those destinations is fixed into the program and how the natural components of that program can be built in the product. And that, at the end of the day, results in a very keen way of understanding the destination from its natural attributes as well as cultural attributes. So that is what we call the best of those destinations, and that is what we want to show the world as Metropolitan Touring. We want to show it also with a lot of respect, particularly for the cultures of those destinations where we operate, and definitely with a lot of respect for the natural components. That's why in Galapagos we have to be so careful with not only the handling of our vessels and the handling of our trip, but also the impact that naturally tourism creates in an area. We want to minimize that, and that's why we are so keen in supporting the local population, in supporting recycling activities in Galapagos, making sure that education is very well taken care of in the local community. In Galapagos, for example, on that education level, we take the children of the Galapagos on board our vessels as soon as a cabin is available, so they can also see what's around their own heritage where they live. And that, we believe, is the best way to gradually convey those kids into being the best protectors of the Galapagos.
That's pretty good stuff. In terms of markets, I presume North America is probably your number one.
At the moment, it remains as number one, and I could say probably in percentages, about 60% of the market is coming from the U.S. And I would say the rest is Europe takes a big chunk out of that, and from Europe, the UK takes a big chunk out of that European component, and then gradually other components. Australia is coming in strong on that one. So it's New Zealand, so is Canada. So those are the top markets that we have at the moment.
And what's the best website for somebody to learn more about your offerings?
I would say metropolitan-touring.com. That's definitely one good website to get all the basic information about who we are as a company. And the minute you click on that website, what you'll find is different modules for each country.
Excellent.
And then, of course, if Ecuador is your interest, and Galapagos definitely there's a big amount of information that allows you to understand what we offer in Ecuador and Galapagos as a company. And if that tickles your mind and say, well, if Ecuador is next to Peru, I would love to go to Peru, you only have to move that mouse just a couple of inches to the right and you'll find Peru. And the story goes on with Colombia, Argentina, and Chile as well.
Thank you, Francisco.
Pleasure, Charles.